right? And these are, his life has been shaped by few important lessons that he recalls as a lesson that he's got from his father on working hard and with sincerity. And his mother has played a great role in his life. And the lesson that he had from her was whenever there's an opportunity and the ability, one must help others, especially the needy and the marginalized. And that pretty much shaped his life. And that led him to adopt human centric approaches to working. And even as it reflects in his current role as a special secretary at NITI Aayog, he's leading the urban development and urban poverty elevation, the skill development, labor, and employment verticals, among several others. And Dr. Rao has had 32 years of a career, a professional career, and it has been illustrious career where he's worked with several ministries, women and child development, health and family welfare, mines recently, amongst many others. And he is an Indian Administrative Service Officer of Tripura Cadre, the 1988 batch. And he's worked in Tripura and Andhra Pradesh. And the watershed years in his professional career have been when he led the DFID assisted Andhra Pradesh Urban Services Improvement Program, where they conceptualized and breathed life into the empowerment of self-help groups. And they established that as a very powerful entity that we see as today, right? And he was also the chief of National Urban Health Mission and also the chief architect for launching the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana between 2014 and 16. Yet another watershed year was the recent times when he was heading the national committee and drafted the national mineral policy, where he brought together a large cohort of 3,500 geoscientists. And so he's contributed greatly to the development facets of the country. And he's also been, quite instrumental in establishing certain organizations and institutional reforms. And in a very short span of time, they've also implemented and established entities like Anganwadis, right? Huge numbers, but in a very short span, influenced how the different states work towards the development activities. And I can go endlessly about Dr. Rao here, but I think I'll just stop here with this brief introduction of Dr. Rao. Welcome to this forum, Dr. Rajeswara Rao Garu. And now I'll just hand over the floor to you for a brief address to the august audience today. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Amrapali. And thanks, Neelima Garu, for your kind words of introduction and touching my heart and a lot of incidents. Yes, you are narrated. Thank you once again for the very lovely introduction. I could see some of the familiar faces when I worked in the APSP. Narendra Garu is one person I used to interact for our association, and Ajit ji perhaps is also we interacted sometimes, and others I couldn't see in full these things. And when I got the invite for this, I was not very clear actually. So what exactly the role of social venture partners and what is their mechanism? Then Neelima Garu has told now, I think Amrapali has already briefed. So it is a very happy occasion because anything related to Telugu states is always a privilege as a local boy and also the son of the soil to associate, even to perhaps participate in your activities. Thank you for inviting me. And I was very happy to see that a very wide range of fields you are supporting so that 1 lakh families will benefit. That is a very impressive. Agriculture, urban, skill, so very diversified sectors. So I was not clear what to tell, what to talk also, but I will share some ideas in case if it is not relevant, you can always stop me so that I will not proceed further. there is a huge opportunity, in fact, to mobilize your funds and your contributions and your organizational work into certain schemes and programs. That is what I thought I should tell you, because you are aware that NITI Aayog, it is not only a think tank, it also coordinates all the NGO activities. You are perhaps aware about the Darpan portal. NGOs, in case if you want to pool your funds to make it a very bigger, so that large number of people can be benefited, you need to enroll with the Darpan portal and also give certain details are there, because more than 50 ministries, they associate the NGOs, CSOs in their activities. So you are already doing something. You have your own vision, agenda, where to work, how to work, and what to work. But if some of you wants that your money to be doubled and tripled, so that more and more people can benefit, as an institutional mechanism, perhaps that opportunity is also available with the urban development, tribal welfare, agriculture, and also the rural development activities. There is a huge opportunity to involve the CSOs, NGOs, and also to the collaborate. So that is one idea I want to flag it. In case if any further details are required, we can always discuss. Second thinking is that if you are involved with the certain self-help groups, so about 5.5 lakhs groups are already formed in urban areas. And if you are working on the skill and their entrepreneurial development activity, then perhaps you can support activities related to their access to the finances, because about 6 lakhs loans have been sanctioned to them. But there is a scope for doing a lot of work in every city. So I don't know in which geography you generally work. Is it a full city or a ward or a particular part of the district? But depending on that geography, wherever you work, and you are focusing on perhaps definitely in identified families, so then perhaps it will tremendously benefit. Because if you thin spreadly, again, of course, you can reach maximum number of people, but maybe that substantial improvement or a substantial significant development will be very difficult to be noticed there. Because I have associated with several NGOs and CSOs, so they will do a particular piece of activity. It may be health sector, it may be the education sector, skill sector in a particular geography. Because if you take Hyderabad, you cannot cover Hyderabad. So you have to be either south of Musi or a Kukatpalli area or some area where you are working. So perhaps that type of focus is also very important. And in case if you want to associate with the ministry's activities, particularly in the city governments, where if you want to create awareness also, as one of, if any of the persons are interested in the information, communication, and education of the community, so that they participate in a better governance, like Neelamagaru has mentioned about the AP USP. We did it in 32 class 1 cities in 1999, where community, that is neighborhood groups, neighborhood committees, they decide what type of infrastructure is required. They will decide what is the priorities required. That was the first major urban reform program introduced in the country. So as an NGO or as a CSO, if you want to strengthen those participatory organizations so that they can perhaps bring a better quality in urban governance, but there is a scope is there. But if anybody is interested to particularly work like a Chenchus in Andhra and Telangana, they are very backward, still practice primitive groups actually. So if you want to help their agriculture, even if the 50 families are there, but it is a very big development in their life, so that can be focused in that particular area. Because it happened with the snake catchers of Tamil Nadu called Irulas. So one particular NGO realized that they have a wonderful skill coming from the generations. So they wanted to improve that skill so that they can be better employed. You know what is the result? because of the communication, because of the network of the pioneers in this service activity, the US cities, I know particularly California and other cities, they engaged and employed Nirulas to catch the snakes, perhaps because a lot of forest area was there. And it is a very big success story 2-3 years back. Like the rat eaters of Bihar, they were helped by the Ashoka University so that they can be rehabilitated. So this is also one particular segment. If you are want that, they're called primitive tribal groups are there. So this is also in like Chenchu I mentioned, that is can be one opportunity. Of course, there are any number of tribal welfare schemes are there, rural development schemes are there. Every scheme don't reach that every needy person. So perhaps we can help in organizing those who are already there in the field to support them, to give some help so that they can be employed and those activities are there. Urban areas, if you are interested, which is because of the geographical easy access, you will be perhaps getting a lot of opportunities, not only strengthen the civil society groups, but even you can help the rat pickers to improve their skills in a particular area so that they can become entrepreneurs. They're already there. Several cases are there. Fecal sludge management, FSSM, we have a lot of, we did a lot of work in the NITI Aayog and also the other ministries. There also there is a scope perhaps to bring value addition to that work. Maybe in your vision, next programs, if you are, if anybody is interested, that can be another opportunity to work. And any waste management, it can be plastic waste, it can be electronic waste, it can be any other waste to wealth mechanisms. Also, perhaps there is an opportunity to any of you to work there. So these are my ideas, but anyhow, you've been doing a lot of work. So I will be happy to hear, or if you want to make any comments also, I will be happy. But there are enough opportunities are there, not only you directly helping these people, but if you want to dovetail your money with the existing schemes, perhaps that also will become a larger sum, larger activity. That opportunity is there. But of course, you know the bureaucratic hurdles and the local level resistance to certain activities. But I think those are surmountable. We can always overcome those issues and we can work on those issues. But I see in urban areas, particularly because in the context of the circular economy, which was mentioned by the Honorable Prime Minister in the Independence Day speech, or waste to wealth mechanisms, very, very downtrodden, very deprived sections of the people, because of the social and economic issues, they can be perhaps also helped. So I am sure that you must be already doing that. But in case if you want to change, you want to enhance, perhaps this is also another opportunity. So several ministries are there. 59 ministries are actively associating the CSOs, and also the in the pandemic time. In fact, NITI Aayog coordinated with 92,000 civil society organizations, which is a very mega task which has been performed. Mr. Amitabh Kant, the CEO of NITI Aayog, chaired the empowered groups to help it, because that was a very one-time activity, very specific activity, but to provide relief to the migrant laborers. So perhaps people are talking about the, again, third round of the pandemic. I'm sure that we all are trying to avoid it, but in case if it comes, perhaps SVP can perhaps play an important role in doing that very specific time-bound type of work. Friends, I thought these are the ideas which I can talk to you, but if any specific issues that Ajit ji, yeah.
First of all, thank you. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to listen to you and to hear you. So, sir, just to give a background, we do work with waste companies and with some really forward-looking waste companies which are actually equipping the people, and even giving them provident fund and health, this thing. And so there is work happening. But coming to specifically to urban and specifically to Hyderabad, this thing, and this is where to some extent I think we would really appreciate some guidance and insights from NITI Aayog. See what happens, and we were just now before this call, we were on another call of people-centric infrastructures, from public transport to pedestrians, etc., etc. Right? I can see Khalil there. We are both have been very passionate about pedestrianization of the old city and its beautification, etc., etc., etc. Now, in some of, and then take the waste, because what has happened in the last few years is Hyderabad has had a huge splurge increase in the slum population, and therefore our ability to deal with sewage, etc., has reduced, and therefore our lakes are polluted. The problem is that in all these things, we can determine to the last paisa the cost of cleaning. So if I have to make Hyderabad city more beautiful, I can tell you to the last rupee how much it will cost me. If I have to prevent sewage from entering the lakes, I can calculate the cost. But the benefit is always in qualitative terms. Correct? So to get funding from anybody, the question comes, how high a cost is enough? And the reason I'm bringing all of this is, if NITI Aayog could at least put some parameters. I'm just throwing a number out of my head. 2 rupees per person per day sewage cost is a good saving cost. Now I have a benchmark which I can aspire and say, look, I'm doing it at 1 rupee and 85 paise. Okay. So something like that would be of immense help, because we do struggle with many initiatives because we don't know how to justify the cost to the government entities. Thank you.
Can I just respond?
Yes, certainly, sir.
There are already certain, of course, institutional benchmarking is not done, because the geographies are different, demographies are different, topographies are different, and but there are standard costing norms are there with the CPWD, Central Public Works Department, where they do the execution of the projects in the under Ganga mission and other missions are there. But your point is very well taken. So certain categories like class 1 towns, metro cities, waterfront cities, like that we can categorize and also try to work on the benchmarks. I'll note it at an appropriate forum. Perhaps I will raise this issue. But there is already the costing norms are already there in the government on how 1 kilometer pipeline is laid, what are the cost of the material, cost of the manpower. Those are already there, which every perhaps city government, including GHMC, they are preparing, they are submitting, like our mega program of cleaning Hussain Sagar Lake, called under the river conservation program. You know that so many phases it was done, 600 crore, 3,000 crore, 2,000 crore, but everything has a basis. But only problem is those mega plans, because I was there in urban for 5 years in Andhra Pradesh, in the municipal administration urban development. Those plans were never fully executed as planned. That is number one. Number two, again, you mentioned that the city level wider planning is not done because of the funds constraint. They said, ठीक है 400 करोड़ है, 400 करोड़ का प्लान बनाइएगा, 800 करोड़ है, 800 करोड़ का प्लान बनाइएगा. So that comprehensiveness was not there. Third is the maintenance of assets was a very big challenge, because asset requires maintenance, electricity costs, chemical cost, manpower cost, maintenance of the lines. So I think what your point is well taken. Thanks for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nilima, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to consolidate Dr. Rao's response to Ajit's question. So Ajit, Mahua has these kind of, per capita costing And the Department of Economic Affairs also has these numbers based on which the loan assistances from various banks to several states are approved, right? So the project costing. So there is a per capita costing. And then Dr. Rao also brought up a good point of management of these assets and the services, the cost recovery, which will make it sustainable. So those cost recovery, the tariffs and all are also adjusted based on the income of the residents or the citizens within that particular city. So it's set as a percentage of the income of the residents, especially from the urban poor localities or the slums and the marginalized communities and so on. So all of these metrics are available with DMA, the the Municipal Administration Directorate. So we can always get all of these from them. Thank
Did
you.
you mention Mahua?
Yeah, Ministry of
Mahua
Health.
is a central ministry, but every state has the Directorate of Municipal Administration.
Right.
But this is particularly available with public health engineering machinery, ENC
Right.
offices, and those things are available.
Great.
Yes.
I'll link you offline, Nilima, and get that.
Sure.
This is very important, very useful. Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Paparao-ji, you can go next.
Yeah. Thanks, Rao Garu, for joining us. It's really a pleasure. And since you sit in the higher echelons of government where policies are taken, my questions are very generic. And if you don't mind, I'll ask 3 questions. Okay, my question 1 is that despite 4 lakh NGOs, maybe more than that, working in the space of development and also government spending a lot of money, why India's HDI score is so low? Why are we at the rank 131 1 year back? My second question is that now, as we see the growing social and economic divide, which could be catastrophic for any nation, what is the government policy thinking to reduce this? And my third question is that what's the purpose of creating this Ministry of Cooperation, and how is it going to help the development space? I would be glad to hear your opinion and also government thought process on all these 3 things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I will take the third question first. That is straightforward and easy question, which is very contextual. Cooperation was under the Ministry of Agriculture, you are aware, but now it has been made a particular ministry because of the vision of the government, Sahakar se Samriddhi, because they want to empower the cooperative societies for the rapid economic and social development of the agriculture and also the related rural development activities. Basically, the separate ministry means exclusive focus, special attention will be now given by the state governments, district level setup, and also in the government of India, which is becoming a full-fledged activity. So it will give a administrative support, legal and policy framework, and also perhaps strengthen the cooperative movement in this country, because 75th year of independence, the maybe ideals of our visionaries of the freedom movement, they all wanted the cooperative movement to be stronger and better, which perhaps is the one of the perhaps focus areas for the government. So they will also perhaps do a lot of ease of doing business, because there are multi-state cooperatives, there are various cooperatives are there. Lot of perhaps acts, rules, limits their activities so that they can't grow with full potentiality, they can't expand their activities. So there will be perhaps a very focused effort on ease of doing business for the cooperative societies so that they become really Jan Andolan. But of course, I don't deal with the ministry or department. These are my understanding from the discussions and also the basic literature as available in the government. There are 2 critical questions. Perhaps this can be debated for hours and hours. There are no perhaps clear solutions, but sir, every effort of the government, be it economic ministries, be it a social development ministries, or be it a welfare ministries, all are struggling making efforts to reduce that social economic disparity of the people. You take innovative measures, like you have seen the last 2 days, national monetization pipeline. It is worth of 6 lakh crores, which is pioneered by our CEO, Mr. Amitabh Kant, and announced by the in the budget by the Finance Ministry, with the participation of ministries and state governments. The entire effort is to generate resources while not giving any ownership rights to anybody, so that this can be reinvested. So in case if we develop this infrastructure, a national infrastructure pipeline, complete those 1 lakh crores worth of works, they all lead to perhaps economic development and social development. So that's why the entire budget of activities and the state governments and also the government of India is meant for this purpose only. And coming to global rankings, there is all universal standardized basis they do that. In fact, NITI Aayog is in charge for certain global indices where we have taken up with the concerned organizations so that it will become Asia specific or Asia Pacific specific, because our culture, our issues are different from the Europe and other these things. But beyond that, perhaps I will not be able to talk to this group. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Ved Singh from AP Mass has a question. Ved.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amrapali. Thank you so much, Dr. Rao, for being part of this conversation. So though we work in the area of livelihood and institutional building with focus on marginalized women, farmers and indigenous community, but my questions are very specific to the work which you have been part of, which you have chaired. So though I have 2 questions, but I'm not sure do I have the flexibility of that much time. So sir, very recently in the push for India's mineral security, the Union Mines Ministry adopted the scheme for accreditation of private exploration agencies for prospecting minerals. Now, this also is a welcome move, which also comes against the backdrop of National Mineral Policy 2019 goals, which was to increase the mineral production by 200% in the next 7 years. As of now, only government agencies were involved in exploration, and the pace of exploration was heavily limited by their capacity. But then, sir, in this particular regard, I have 3 sets of questions which are quite interlinked. For the very first thing, it is well evident that environmental pollution from mining activities is a very major problem in most of the mining areas. But as of now, there is no specific standard on environmental pollution from mining under our umbrella environmental legislations of Environmental Pollution, Water Act, and the Air Act. And adding to this, also the baseline pollution monitoring data in most of the mining areas is nearly non-existent or is very poor, in fact. Second aspect is that so ensuring welfare of the mining affected communities is one aspect that the NMP, the National Mineral Policy, refers to in a more articulate manner. However, given the penchant for easing mining and attracting investments, ensuring the welfare of communities can only become postscripts of such activities. That is my perspective. And summing up, so what sort of regulatory framework the government needs to, or the policy makers needs to be worked out to carry out this particular activity in a full-fledged manner?
Ved, I don't know whether the participants would be interested in this topic, and I am also no more working in the Mines Ministry. I was in the Mines Ministry for 3 years as Additional Secretary. I chaired the National Mineral Policy, drafted it. So National Mineral Policy is a very forward, progressive this thing with a very responsible mechanisms for dealing with the issues raised by you. The policy prescribes a lot of things, use of technology, the welfare of the affected people. You know that there is 50,000 crores is the money lying with the under District Mineral Fund, DMF. It is meant for the project affected people only, but at the district level, under the chairmanship of the district magistrate and these things, they are making efforts to do that. But data, you mentioned that there's not much data available about the mines. No, every aspect of, because I was controller general of Indian Bureau of Mines, every mining information is completely available. What is the resource, what can be taken out, what cannot be taken out, which area, it is all available. So it happens sometimes, there will be certain aberrations and deviations, but data is available. So there's no problem with the data. And environmental pollution. In fact, there is a Supreme Court committee, there is a state level pollution control boards. They are all monitored. So there is a, while making the national mineral policy, there was a debate. Development versus mining. Whether both will go independently or both can converge and synergize at a certain point. So synergization is a must, because when we take up ambitious infrastructure programs, we need to have minerals. One is import of the minerals, another is tapping our own resource out there. So these reforms are meant for, I think, tapping the mineral wealth of the country so that we develop it. We develop it, we develop the nation, we develop the economy, we develop the society. It is a very progressive reform. In fact, after a long time it happened, I'm sure that it will create a good impact. Beyond this, perhaps I will not be able to tell you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you,
Amrapali,
Mr. Rao.
can I
Yeah,
ask-
wait.
Can I ask one more small question?
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
specific to the work which Dr. Rao has done.
Yeah, that would be great. Way. That would be helpful. Thanks.
Yeah. So, sir, the PMJY, Jan Arogya Yojana also. I would like to have a very small and specific question related to that. So, the predecessor to PMJY, which was the Rashtriya Swasth Bima Yojana, one gap which was found out in both this national pan-India scheme was that both of them don't cover the outpatient care, which contribute to around 60% of India's out-of-pocket expenses. So, what would be your comment on this, sir? Why is that this scheme doesn't cover this expenses also, which carries a huge financial burden on a large set of the population, which are the poor and vulnerable communities?
Yeah. So when we developed the PMJY guidelines in the health ministry during 17-18 before launch, there was the debate whether we cover outpatient and also. So it was mentioned by various stakeholders because of the perhaps institutional mechanisms to monitor, control was one concern which was raised in that issue. Second is that that standard insurance depends on the commitments and liabilities. So that will perhaps increase the policy premium rates and other things. So the effort at the time was, though out-of-pocket expenses is the major burden for the Indian populace, where perhaps 6 million people always slip to the below poverty line. But the another greater concern was on the tertiary care and secondary care. So it was always considered that primary care should be taken by the primary health centers and community health centers, which there is a national health mission, which can take care of the OPDs, etc. And the secondary and tertiary cares are not fully developed at the district level, because urban areas have, but there are about 800 districts, district headquarters towns are there. So that was the focus. But I was told that it is being examined now. How do we integrate or channelize these things? Because 24 state governments have their own health schemes earlier. They all perhaps merged, some of them are yet to merge. So perhaps they also can take a decision. If it is a contributory scheme, is a central sponsored scheme, they can do that. Perhaps, but this is one of the areas which has been discussed and flagged at every level. That much I can tell you.
Thank you so much, Amrapali. Thank you so much, Dr. Rao.
Thank you. Ramesh, you have a question. Please go ahead.
Hey, thank you, Amrapali. Sir, good evening to you, sir. And I'm Ramesh, and I work for Youth for Jobs Foundation that improves the livelihood of people with disabilities. In fact, we provide training and placement support to these people with disabilities. And recently, we have also won an international award for our innovative practices in employment of people with disabilities by setting up disability inclusion cells in universities and colleges. So we are supported by SVP Hyderabad in Hyderabad region. And we also have presence in 10 other locations. And we are supported by other various corporate funders. So we want to understand how, because the success of the program depends on 3 key stakeholders. One is employers, and second one is the educational institutions, and third one is the government institutions. So wherever we are operating, we work very closely with the disability commissioners in the respective states and the cities that we are, and they also extend their full support, which is, we are so happy about it. So we want to know how we can and what kind of engagement that we can have with NITI Aayog, because we cater to both less educated youth with disabilities and the educated youth with disabilities. So we reach the unreached, and we can't be successful without the support of government. And we do have 2-3 offices that caters to different disabilities in Delhi. And yes, we want to have your insight on how we can collaborate and work with you, sir.
Good, Ramesh garu, good to hear that you have been doing with the education institutions, because it is a very, very important work. Because even if you benefit 100 students with their dignity and with the comfort level, this is good. So NITI Aayog engages with all the CSOs with where you register with the Darpar portal, as I mentioned earlier. And there are committees out there. Already under the chairmanship of the Vice Chairman, Dr. Rajiv Kumar, committees have been formed with the CSOs on various issues. I will check what is this particular committee and what they are doing, and what is the scope for your association there. Number one. Number two, there is of course separate ministry is there. I know the secretary very well because she's my batchmate, Anjali Bhavra. So if you are coming to Delhi for any other work, I will arrange a meeting with her. Then she can, you can give a very specific proposal or any activity within the schematic framework, how you can involve, and then I can arrange a meeting with them. That are Minister of Social Justice. Both the things I can arrange, and so that you, but please read their ministry's websites, their schemes, and the opportunity for working with them, because I don't have a full knowledge about each scheme. So then you let me know. Whatever support you need, I will facilitate in Delhi in terms of meetings and also the discussions. I can do that.
Super, super, sir. We will send you a small note about what we are doing, and then from there we will take it forward. Thank you so much for being very positive about that thing, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. I have a question. So I just wanted to understand from you your thoughts that do you feel that collaboration between the government organization and civil society needs attention? What are some of the roadblocks to venture collaborative efforts, and what do you think can be potential areas where the collaboration between the government and civil societies like SVP and others could be worked upon?
Yeah, Amrapali, there is already collaboration between the CSOs and the various implementing partners and the ministries in various ministries. But one problem comes is lack of awareness also. Many of the CSO NGOs, they are not even aware that they are doing this particular activity. They can get funding also from so and so sources. Perhaps I realize that when I interact with the NGOs, that is one thing. Then the procedural aspect, because see, all said and done, because of the accountability mechanisms and also answerability, there are certain accountability mechanisms are there which are little rigid in terms of filling of forms, submission of utilization certificates. So some of the NGOs who are genuinely interested in philanthropy, they are averse to these things, saying that because of this red tapeism, whatever we call bureaucratic procedures, delays, pending approvals, they say that better not to be there. So let's do whatever is required. So I think that mutual distrust or maybe improvement of the improved communication perhaps can break that trust issues, so that more and more NGOs, they communicate, they demand actually. See, it is not a giver and taker relationship anymore in the government. It is a stakeholder demanding certain services, certain rights, certain privileges. So perhaps SVP and all other colleagues can do that. But before that, I just mentioned to Ramesh Garu that you need to have a proper knowledge about the scheme, what are the activities permitted under the scheme, provisions of the scheme, then only you will be able to tap that scheme, apply or discuss particular scheme. If you don't prepare your proposal within the framework of this thing and asking for exemption, nobody can give exemption. These are all the parliamentary approved schemes or policy approvals. So work within the policy framework. That is the only advice I can give to all our NGO colleagues and the civil society entrepreneurs, that work within the schemes and apply within the scheme, then chase them. Because there is a public grievance redressal mechanism is there. That is in the DOPT portal. You can always say that if there is a delay in the release of a subsidy or activity, you can always take up. So perhaps sustained efforts from both the wings, both the government and also these things, will perhaps engage more and more, because now there is a growing engagement with each year of crisis and the challenges. That is happening, but there is a scope for to do much more in everywhere. So that is there. But it's a good question, Amrapali.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, very true. I think you are absolutely right about the general distrust and lack of knowledge. And this needs to be improved upon to make some collaborative efforts in the similar directions.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? If anybody would like to ask, please raise hand or type it in the chat box and we can bring it up.
I do not think we have any more questions, Amrapali. Not getting any.
Narendra Garu, how are you doing and how is your pragati?
Doing very well, sir.
International or global? Yeah.
No, we are Indian.
Okay. But you are still in that activity?
Yes. We have a unit in Noida and we do for Samsung phones.
Okay.
So we are there also. Yes, nearer to you.
Good.
So, sir, he was about a year ago recognized as the first national lifetime achievement leader in that industry.
Wow. And yeah, of course, it should have come 20 years back, because even in 90s, they were the leaders because of their standards, because their visioning. So I'm happy. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And
Thank you so much.
They have stayed up to date with technology. They have moved their product. So in some ways, it's a very fascinating business case study of how even what we think as traditional businesses can still get a competitive edge globally.
Yes.
With technology. I mean, it's a really fascinating study. We sometimes, we talk of Atmanirbhar. It's in so many different places that the country has some really good people doing. It's fascinating when you actually can go and see some examples of excellence.
Only one amendment, you mentioned that they are completely updated. I differ with you. They are ahead of the times. Because in 1997, I realized that they are ahead of the times. So that's why they are good.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we do not have any more questions. Naren, would you like to share some closing thoughts?
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajeswara Garu. It's been a pleasure listening to you. And actually, one of the things I also came to understand that there are so many schemes, so many things which we really don't know. So yes, we have to go back to the websites, read what is possible, what is not possible, then apply it so that we can do a much better job. So really, it's been an eye-opener, and I never thought that these kind of things are possible. Thank you so much for making us see that. Really, thank you very, very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And that's also in the morning when you just said, I am partial towards these Telugu speaking states. What I wrote in the morning, this is a boy from our states. I want all of you to come and listen to him. So really wonderful having you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for being here.
Have a
Thank you
nice
very
evening,
much.
sir.
Have a
Thank
nice
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.
So Amrapali,
Yes, Ajit.
actually, one of the things SVP can do is to continuously keep on track with what are all the things, and on our website for different people, showcase the government